Happy Sunday, Bengals fans. Once again, welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. The Bengals, of course, off today here on a Sunday as they just played on Thursday night. So on today's episode, I'm going to take a look at kind of the state of the football team, where we sit right now with the Bengals at 4-6, really with little to none room for error going forward in terms of trying to make the playoffs. I think they can probably only lose one more game, maybe two. But on today's show, we're going to talk about a massive change that is required if the Cincinnati Bengals football team is going to be able to take things to the next level and get to those playoffs. And it, of course, revolves around protecting quarterback Joe Burrow and some things that kind of come with that. Also, going to be taking a look at some waiver wire activity for Cincinnati. The Bengals were able to bring in a player and nearly brought in another player. So we will talk about that here on today's show. And also just looking ahead, kind of as I mentioned, just the state of the 2024 season right now, looking at the horizon in terms of things that are to come and what Cincinnati kind of is in store for here as we really kick into gear here in November and look forward to this last chunk of the season. Of course, one more game before the Bengals bye in a couple of weeks. So that is coming up here on today's show. But before we get into that, we have a new month, November, of course. That means we are running back our like battle with our Ravens channel. We've taken care of business 2 out of the last 3 months. So hopefully we can make it 3 out of the last 4 as far as our like battles go with our Baltimore Ravens channel. So help us out. Hit that thumbs up icon. Something you should do for all of our videos here at Bengals Breakdown. Really helps us out and allows us to do more things going forward. And just a heads up, I am doing some solo producing here on today's edition of Bengals Breakdown. So if you see me look down, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through our episode here on a Sunday. All right, let's get right into it now. Joe Burrow is taking way too many shots. We saw it in the Vegas game, with Max Crosby hitting him late, as well as Thursday night against Baltimore as well. He was hit 13 times in that football game, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Now, one of my favorite things, probably my number one favorite thing about watching Joe Burrow is his toughness. And no matter how he gets hit, if it's after the whistle or prior to the whistle, he just hops right back up, and it's as if nothing happened. Literally my favorite part about watching Joe Burrow play. But at some point, something needs to be done about this. I don't think it's really Burrow's responsibility. I think it comes from the head coach as well as the offensive line as well. And Zac Taylor kind of addressed this at his Friday press conference after the Bengals lost to Baltimore. And here's exactly what he said. He said, I've got to fight harder for Joe to get some of that because he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to disrupt from the flow of the game. I just got to keep fighting for some of that stuff because you don't want to lose him on a play that's well over after the play. Absolutely, Zac Taylor's got to be in the officials' ear a little bit more when it comes to this, as well as the offensive line. Here's what Burrow said after the game in regards to some of those hits that were not called for him on that Thursday night game against Baltimore. He said, I feel like I have never really gotten those calls, so I don't really expect that. I feel like there were a couple that were close, but again, I do not expect those. Again, I just think the way he handles that is just absolutely so good. But you look at all the other star quarterbacks in the National Football League. If Mahomes is getting hit, he's crying to the officials about it. Same with Josh Allen. Burrow doesn't do that because he is just kind of above that, and I frankly am happy that he doesn't do it. But it's on the team, his offensive line. These 5 guys in particular, Orlando Brown Jr., of course, a little banged up still, hasn't played the past 2 games. We'll get to him a little bit later on in the show. But these guys have to step up. Cody Ford was there when he got popped after the whistle, and Cody Ford just didn't do anything about it. He's got to stick up for his franchise guy. He's got, if it results in a, penalty from Cincinnati, 15 yards to kind of just set the tone and let other teams know that you can't be doing this, I think it is honestly worth it. And Zac Taylor's really got to be working the officials on the sideline as well, because it really is ridiculous. I hate sitting around just complaining about officiating, but it really is ridiculous that all these star quarterbacks get calls, but for whatever reason, Joe Burrow does not. It's got to change, and I think it starts with these guys right here, the offensive line, kind of setting the tone and getting in the defender's business if they hit Burrow with some cheap shots that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. Leads us to the pinned comment of today's video. Will Joe Burrow start to get some more calls going forward. Type Y for yes or N for no for us in the comment section. It is the pinned comment of today's video, so if that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comment section and let us know what you think. All right, moving on here to some waiver wire talk. Here's what Field Yates of ESPN said. Essentially, the Bengals were interested in bringing in Yannick Ngakoue to their football team, who, of course, is a pass rusher and is a veteran player, got drafted several years ago, and kind of has really just bounced around the NFL. And he's been a solid player, but like I said, he hasn't really had the ability to stay on a particular team. But this certainly was a good sign that the Bengals at least attempted to get a guy like Yannick Ngakoue to their football team. He was playing with the Baltimore Ravens, hasn't done a ton this year, does have a sack and a half. But as Field mentioned in his tweet, unfortunately, the Patriots were able to get their hands on Ngakoue before the Bengals because that's just kind of where they were as far as the pecking order goes of the waiver wire. So like the aggression that the Bengals understood, hey, we got to bring somebody else in. Obviously fell short at the trade line doing it. I would have loved to have Yannick Ngakoue on this football team for Cincinnati throughout the remainder of the season. So hopefully the Bengals can continue to kind of stay locked into the waiver wire and maybe end up adding a piece. But certainly that game against Baltimore, just seeing the kind of the differences as far as the time that Lamar Jackson had compared to the time that Joe Burrow had, it was just completely two opposite sides of the spectrum, and that's got to get cleaned up going forward. But one guy the Bengals did land was Isaiah Williams, a wide receiver. They were able to get him off the waiver wire. He was a member of the Detroit Lions, went undrafted this year in 2024, played 4 years of college football at Illinois, and that kind of just lets me know that, hey, maybe there's some issues with T. Higgins as far as he might be out a little bit longer than expected, but I think Charlie Jones as well is another guy to monitor. Jones, of course, has missed the past 2 weeks as well with a groin injury, and maybe Isaiah Williams will get some work here going forward. Again, he's played in a couple of games for the Lions, but now a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. Perhaps can get some reps in the return game, but good to see the Bengals at least making some moves, trying to improve their roster at that receiver position. You're a little bit banged up, obviously, with T. Higgins and Charlie Jones being banged up. We'll continue with our show here in a moment, but first, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, of course, is the sponsor of today's show here at Bengals Breakdown. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. They also invented the Flex Play over at Prize Picks, which I think is a really nice addition. Taking a look here at my buddy Tyler Jones, his slate for today's games. He's going with the more than on Patrick Mahomes passing yards, and he's going with the less than on Bo Nix rushing yards. So I think I'm going to ride with my guy here, Tyler Jones, over at the Chiefs Report. Again, this is what he put together with our friends over at Prize Picks. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, looking ahead here, let's take a look at 2 rather important injuries here, and that, of course, is Orlando Brown Jr. being one of them. OBJ has missed the past 2 games against Vegas and Baltimore, and we saw him miss parts of the 2 games prior to that against Cleveland and Philadelphia. He was a limited participant in practice leading up to the Baltimore game, so there was some hope that he would play, but ultimately he was not able to do so. It seems like Zac Taylor is optimistic that he's going to be able to give it a go on Sunday night against the Chargers, and boy, they certainly could use him because Cody Ford is really not cutting it there, holding down the left side of the offensive line. Hopefully we get Orlando Brown Jr. back, and he can have an impact on Sunday Night Football. As for T. Higgins, signs probably not as good as many people would hope. Zac Taylor said it's very up in the air, doesn't want to commit to anything at this point. But Higgins, of course, soft tissue issue, pardon the rhyme there, with the quad injury. And soft tissue injuries were a problem for him early in the season when the hamstring caused him to miss some games as well. So really unfortunate. Higgins, of course, under the franchise tag, trying to get that long-term contract that he desperately seeks, but he's had a problem with staying on the football field, which really has been a pattern throughout his career to this point. So fingers crossed. But at this point, I'm not really expecting T. Higgins to be able to go on Sunday Night Football. Another opportunity for you guys to get involved here with our show at Bengals Breakdown. Will T. Higgins be active on Sunday night against the Chargers? Type A for active or I for inactive. Sound off for us in the comments. I want to know what you think. Be honest with us. Again, type A for active or I for inactive. All right, here's what's on the horizon for Cincinnati going forward. I said kind of with those 3 games going into the bye, Raiders last week, of course, against the Ravens, and then this Chargers game, said you needed 2 out of 3. You beat the Raiders, of course, lost to the Ravens. Here you are against the Chargers. I think it's a must-win game for Cincinnati. Probably need to get to that 10-win mark in order to get in. Maybe you can somehow get in with 9 wins, but you sit here at 4-6 right now. I think you absolutely need to win this game. That gives you 1 game you can drop coming in after the bye. So really crucial stretch here for the Bengals, obviously, and taking a look at the AFC North standings. As time continues to go on, I think you can kind of kiss away the hopes of winning this division. And it's starting to look like more and more by the day, by the week, that the wild card route is going to be what it takes, especially after being 0-2 against Baltimore as well. You do have 2 opportunities to play Pittsburgh coming down the stretch, which are going to be critical, massive games. So maybe that can flip, especially if Pittsburgh, stumbles today against a solid young Washington Commanders team. But I think at this point you're kind of geared towards wild card hopes when it comes to potentially making the playoffs. So I'm still holding on to hope, for the record, that the Bengals are going to be able to get it done. But you probably slip up, lose 1 game, maybe 2, but probably just 1 game going forward if you want to get in to the dance. Make sure you guys hit that sub button if you have not done so already. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV. We will have videos for you all the time, all the latest Bengals news, rumors, injury reports, game previews as well. So don't miss out on any of our coverage here at Bengals Breakdown. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV.